Welcome everybody to this Planning Committee meeting of the 2nd of December 2025. I'm Councillor Phil Murphy, Chairman of the committee, and Dale.
Hi, I'm Councillor Dale Rook. I'm Vice Chair of the committee.
Andrew.
Andrew Jones, Head of Planning.
Philip Thomas, Development Services Manager.
Paige Mosley, Solicitor to Planning Committee.
Richard Ray, Paralegal.
Wendy Barnard, Democratic Services.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll go to the agenda now. And do we have apologies for absence, Wendy?
Yes, we have apologies for absence from Councillors Riley, Bond, Bromfield and Webb. And Councillor Garrett may be a little later.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest, anybody? Councillor Howells?
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm declaring an interest in the first one.
Okay, if you can fill in the pro forma when you get a chance. For those looking in, we've just had a spillage of water, so just bear with us a second.
He's on camera as well. Be recorded, Marianne.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we've done the declarations. Minutes of the previous meeting, Councillor McConnell and Councillor Crook, thank you very much. Can I remind everybody to use the hands up function in the chat and keep your cameras on, otherwise you won't be able to vote. Contact us, those online, if you have to break off. As I say, if you can go to the taskbar on the top of your screen for the hands up function, that'd be great. Has everybody read the late correspondence, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody indicating they have. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to the first of the applications then, and that is an application 2021-01781, which is the proposal of a new build 3-bedroom dwelling in Little Mill, and that's going to be presented by Andrew.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just wait for the, there we go, slides. Hopefully you can all see those. So as you said, Chair, this is a full application that seeks planning permission for the erection of 1 3-bedroom dwelling, and permission is also sought to utilise an existing access at the end of the garden to serve the new dwelling that would lead to a new single garage alongside 2 tandem parking spaces. Also, a new access along Brynhyfryd Close is proposed to serve the severed dwelling, Rob Erner, with car parking spaces for 3 vehicles. And just to confirm, as a matter of order, the application is presented to you this afternoon, members, as the number of objections has exceeded the relevant threshold. So a number of you would have been on site yesterday. Apologies I wasn't able to join you, but I'll just talk through now the slides, which includes a suite of photographs and plans which Jess set out the development proposal. So the first slide you can see there, so that's the application site edged in red on the left-hand side. That shows its location at the junction of the A472 with Brynhyfryd Close. The image on the right there says it has been reorientated. There is a north arrow on there just to give you bearings, but that shows the position of the new dwelling, which is set behind the existing, with that smaller area marked there is the detached garage you can see behind the proposed dwelling. So just turning to the next slide. Again, that's showing in sort of aerial context of the site and the garden area to the rear of the existing property, which is to be developed. In terms of the proposal then, apologies, they're a little bit small, but hopefully you've had a chance to read through these and look at them at your own leisure. These are the elevations of the proposed dwelling on the right, so a simple rendered finished property, and that is the proposed detached single garage that would sit behind the property, as we saw on the earlier slide. Yes, turning through to the next slide. So these are the proposed floor plans. So the ground floor plan on the right-hand side. I suppose of more note, and I'll touch upon this later on the left-hand side is the proposed first floor plan. And you can see there with the lines of sight that are annotated, there's an oriel window to the southeastern elevation that has been positioned, including obscure glazing windows, to maintain privacy standards of the property in front of it. I think there are some site photographs as well, which are actually helpfully labelled. So that's on the top left there. You can see what is the existing dwelling that would be the sort of, say, as I'll refer to as the Sever dwelling on the top left-hand side. And you can see it again there on the top right. That's turning up into Brynhyfryd Close. Image on the bottom left, that's the application site effectively, with the garden of the retained dwelling in the foreground. And you can see there that it's part of that, it's a little overgrown there, but that's the part of the common boundary there. And just on to the next slide. That's great. So as annotated, really, that's the properties and the turning head to the north of the application site. That's an existing detached garage, and then the view on the bottom is looking back down. The application site is on your left-hand side, and that's a view then looking back down towards the main A472. So in terms of our assessment and evaluation, in terms of this application, as you'll know, the committee report does provide a very detailed overview of the relevant material considerations and policies. So I'll just run through what I believe to be the key planning issues. I'll just note the amendments to condition 12 in late correspondence, as well as for the purposes of clarity, the ridge height confirmed as being 8 metres high. So starting where we always should in terms of the principle of development, within the current policy framework of the existing local development plan, Little Mill is defined as a main village, and the application site, is within the development boundary for the settlement, and therefore the principle of residential development is acceptable, subject to detailed considerations. So I'll just touch on the key detailed considerations. So in terms of design and placemaking, officers are satisfied that the plot is appropriately sized to accommodate one additional property and is an efficient use of land in line with the aspirations of Policy DES 1 that sets out to make the most efficient use of land. The design of the two-storey dwelling is considered to be appropriate. As you saw on the slides, it adopts a very simple form and is considered to be of a scale in keeping with those surrounding. The choice of materials is also considered to be acceptable within the context of the village, where there is a mixed palette throughout the village as the village has grown and expanded throughout. And similarly, there's also a mix of house types and sizes in the immediate built environment. In addition, the detached single garage, as you have seen on the slides, is very modest and subordinate in scale and wouldn't appear to be unobtrusive in the wider street scene. So from a design and placemaking context, officers feel there are no grounds on which to withhold planning permission. In terms of impact on third-party residential amenity and indeed privacy, and the impact of the dwelling on those surrounding properties, Section 6.5 of your officer's report does set out a very detailed assessment of that impact on neighbouring properties and also includes commentary on separation distances. And whilst mitigation is required by virtue of the oriel window to the southeast elevation, being required to be partially obscure glazed. This can be managed by a simple and appropriate planning condition. So for the reasons that are concluded and set out in the officer's report, the proposal is considered that it would not fail to preserve existing levels of privacy and amenity and meets the requirements that are relevant within policies DES 1 and EP 1. Turning to then highway safety, and this does seem to be a key theme and a key matter that's been raised through the local consultation process. And indeed, officers do acknowledge that the concerns raised in respect of highway safety, including those by the Community Council, but the proposal has been subject to consultation with the Council's highways engineers and accordingly has been subject to significant amendment. And as set out in the report, highways officers offer no objection to the development. The amendments that have been secured to the proposal, as stated earlier, would provide policy-compliant off-street parking to both the proposed and the severed dwelling. With regard to construction traffic, the proposed Condition 6 would require details to be submitted and agreed in terms of a construction traffic management plan, and this would help to safeguard and manage any temporary disruption to the highway network during the construction phase. So therefore, whilst the local objections concerning highway safety are fully understood, the amendments to the proposal have overcome the issues that were identified by our highways engineer, a statutory consultee, who no longer have grounds to raise an objection. And it's on that basis that as officers we recommend that the development is considered to accord with the requirements of LDP policy MV1. So in conclusion, and having regard to the relevant policy, some which I've quoted in this presentation, and all other material considerations, the development is considered to be acceptable. So subject to the conditions set out in the officer's report, including the amendment to Condition 12 as per late correspondence, and the signing of a Section 106 agreement to secure a financial contribution of £4,176 towards affordable housing, the application is presented to this afternoon members with a recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And we have the local member on line, Councillor Keir. Tony, you've got 4 minutes and 2 to sum up at the end if you want, or you can use all 6 minutes now. So over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Andrew, for your detailed summary that you've given there, and thank you to the officers for producing the report. I will be brief. I'm not against, in principle, of the development of the site. I think you're absolutely right to highlight the highway safety issues. I should perhaps just declare a personal interest, just as I'm chairman of the Little Mill Village Hall opposite the site. So perhaps for the records, I should declare that. I don't believe it is prejudicial in any way. I do note that the issues of parking on the site at the moment, with also a number of residents do use Little Mill Village Hall to park. I note the comments, I note the changes that have been made to the application based on the concerns, the considerable concerns have been made against on the highway safety. My conclusion, though, I'm not persuaded, though, that those changes are sufficient. I do feel it is overdevelopment. So my conclusion, Chair, is that I'm not persuaded to support the application, and therefore my objection is made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keir. We now have some statements, one from the applicant and one from an objector, and Andrew is going to read those.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you also to Councillor Keir. So this, the first statement I'll read is from a neighbouring party, which states, there have been numerous objections from local residents, and these have not been taken into consideration. When the previous extension to Roberna was undertaken, there were numerous issues with trade vehicles blocking access to the close and numerous vehicles mounting the pavement on a daily basis. Vehicles mounting the pavement is an ongoing concern within the close, and this will only be exacerbated. Due to a lack of off-road parking for current residents and the amount of vehicles within the close, this results with vehicles parking on the hill, which means that only smaller vehicles can access the close safely, and any delivery vehicles, even MCC recycling vehicles, always need to mount the pavement in order to get access to the close. This poses yet another safety concern, especially as my gate leads directly onto the pavement, and there have been a few occasions when myself and my children have had near misses with vehicles when they are mounting the pavement to gain access egress to the close. This is already an unsafe practice being used, and this will be increased with the additional access to Roberna due to a reduction of parking within the close. The introduction of the drop curb will add extra pressure to parking within the close. The proposed entrance is very close to an already narrow and dangerous, unsafe entrance to the close, which is a health and safety concern for pedestrians and other vehicles. This will also be exacerbated with additional vehicles when family and friends visit. As part of our objection to this planning application, we have referred to Development Management Policy Local Development Plan, LDP, and added the objection to those sections, which these have been highlighted within our online objection. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, Andrew, and I believe there's a response from the agent.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is a statement that's been prepared by Glenbuckle of Buckle Chamberlain Partnership, the agent to the planning application. Chair and members of the Planning Committee, we were informed on Friday the 28th of November 2025 that there was no objector who wished to speak at the Planning Committee meeting on the 2nd of December 25. We were informed by Mr Phil Thomas on Monday the 1st of December that the Chair of the Committee is allowing a statement to be read out to the Committee. The following statement is to be read out on behalf of my client to counter the possible objections raised as a right of reply. It should be noted that the proposal for car parking has been fully supported by the Highways Officer, Mr Benjamin Lewis. Comments from Mr Benjamin Lewis include the following. The addition of a single dwelling is not considered to represent a significant highway concerns in terms of capacity or safety. We have no grounds for an objection. Both the existing property, Roberna, and the new dwelling include for the parking of 3 number of vehicles. As the officer states, both properties meet Monmouthshire County Council local parking standards. In addition, Roberna did not have any formalised parking, with the owners utilising parking in Bryn Hyfryd Close. The proposal to allocate on-site parking represents a reduction of on-street parking, and the addition of a single dwelling is not considered to represent a highways concern in terms of capacity or safety. It should be noted that only one footpath serves Bryn Hyfryd Close, which is on the left-hand side as you enter the close. The width of the path is acceptable in highways terms, although it is compromised on width by the neighbour's hedge, number 2, Bryn Hyfryd Close, overhanging the footpath. As the footpath is adopted, the council should instruct that the hedge be cut back to the boundary, which would also improve highway safety for residents and improve forward visibility for vehicles. The property will have the benefit of in excess of 75 square metres of garden amenity area. The hedge adjacent to my client's property is owned by the owner of number 2, Bryn Hyfryd Close, and if cut back to the edge of the carriageway, would allow for 2 number of visitor spaces for the close to be maintained. As the hedge overhangs the public highway, the council have the authority for it to be cut back, which would allow parking on the highway for 2 cars. As the proposal stands, there is no objection on highway grounds, and the development complies with the local authority planning standards. There are no statutory service objections to the proposal. All potential sightlines for overlooking have been addressed within the design, with careful positioning of windows, and the use of obscure glazing will protect the privacy of the neighbouring properties and their private amenity space. Thank you for the opportunity of responding, and we anticipate that the council will agree with the officer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And we'll move now to members. Councillor Garrett, well done for joining us as soon as you could. Unfortunately, you did miss the first part of this, so you would be unable to vote on this particular application. So can I invite members to contribute? Put your hands up in the taskbar if you have got any points that you want to raise. Councillor Buckler.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for presenting it. I was on site yesterday to see the proposed site. One thing that has definitely been flagged up in the letter of objection and the consideration is the fact that, you know, work going on to build this house will cause a great deal of disruption to existing residents. Is there a condition that can be imposed on the workforce working on this if we agree to say this application is reasonable and permit it? I think it is a very sort of material concern for the residents of Little Mill. So I just wonder if you could respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckler, and that will obviously be contained in the construction traffic management plan. But Andrew, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, the Chair is quite correct there. There is condition 6 of the officer's report sets out that a construction traffic management plan be imposed as a condition of this planning permission. So this would include traffic management measures, hours of working, etc., and other sort of noise-related nuisances, which is a sort of fairly standard condition that we would impose when there's the potential for disruption of construction traffic. So Councillor Buckler is quite right to flag it as an issue, certainly the issues that are experienced on site, but that condition would cover the point that has been raised.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anybody else? So, Councillor Bryn.
Diolch, Chair. Can you just tell me, if possible, if the replacement and retention of the hedgerow is knitted in amongst conditions 3 and 4, as removal of more hedgerow within this site would, you know, significantly change the look and biodiversity of the sites. Also, I know there was a lot of concern about parking on the close and particularly of lack of access for recycling vehicles and mounting of pavements. Is it possible that we can request Highways revisit the site post-construction to see if there's anything that they can implement to improve safety, such as double yellows or anything that they could do to, because there's obviously an ongoing concern that they think is going to be exacerbated should this development be approved today. And finally, I was a little confused because I thought in the Highways comments that it was noted that it was a 2-bedroom property, and yet this is a 3-bedroom property, is it not? And so even in the newest, because I know they've commented twice, but even in the newest comment, it says it's a 2-bed, and therefore there's enough parking for a 2-bed, but this is a 3-bed. So is there enough off-site parking for a 3-bed? Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bryn. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Bryn. I'll try and take those in reverse order, I suppose. It is a 3-bedroom property. The parking proposed for both, say, the severed dwelling is 3 spaces. For the proposed dwelling, it's 2 tandem spaces and a detached garage. And as per our supplementary planning guidance in respect of parking, where the garage is detached, it is counted as an off-street parking space. It's only integral garages that we don't count, which are often converted later in their lifetime, etc. So it is 3, and that is in line for both properties with our parking standards. In terms of the ability for Highways to revisit afterwards, I mean, that is a separate matter for the local highway authority. Their officers and their advice to us is that there isn't grounds to withhold planning permission. They feel that capacity, impact, etc. is acceptable. The development would introduce some off-street parking in an area where that is, say, somewhat limited at the moment. So if there was local concern, either through the community council or through Councillor Keir or Councillor Howells as ward members, then they could raise that issue with the Highway Authority. But at this stage, there's no grounds or reasons to think that any additional measures, double yellow lines, as you've said, are necessary to make this acceptable. We say we've taken the advice and worked with Highways. As I've said to the presentation, it's been through quite an iterative process to redesign this to overcome those Highways issues. So we're satisfied that it won't cause stress or increase parking stress or highway safety issues to residents. In terms of the initial point, in terms of the landscaping, the proposed layout drawing does label up where existing hedgerow is to be retained, but that would be fully fleshed out in condition 3, which does include means of protection, etc. So we'd have the opportunity to review that in detail with our ecologists, for example, to ensure that this is delivering on its GI requirements as the policies require. So we're satisfied that in terms of that the net benefit overall of the development in terms of biodiversity will be achieved, and it's clearly labelled where GI assets will be retained, and say then the condition 4 will deliver the enhancements. So hopefully, Councillor, that satisfies your points.
Yes, I was just going to, one more question, if that's okay. It was just, would that include the hedgerow that's already been taken out as a preemption for this application? Because we were informed that significant hedgerows has already been removed. I don't know if that's the case, but if it had been, would that include that when you're talking about the biodiversity net gain?
Sorry, is that to the existing property or to the plot at the rear?
That's to the plot at the rear.
Okay. I don't have a direct answer other than all vegetation and landscaping to be retained and added to is covered by the conditions. So obviously the impact of the development as it stands has not been given permission. Those conditions don't take effect yet. So it's not a conservation area. If there has been loss of landscape, at the minute that's done without the requirement for any sort of permission. But that condition is there to safeguard that and to ensure that the development is completed would meet local national policies in terms of GI and ecological enhancement.
Andrew, have you got any thing to answer on Councillor Keir's bit? I think that's probably pretty well covered by the rest of it, but
yeah, just looking at the issues Councillor Keir had raised in terms of the point of overdevelopment. Like I said, we feel the plot size is appropriate. We do have policy DES 1 that encourages, in line with national policy, an efficient use of land within development boundaries. So I understand the point that Councillor Keir is making, but as I said in the presentation, the officer view is that it's not an overdevelopment of the plot. The plot can accommodate a 2-storey property. It's a fairly modest property, and that the amenity space left around it, and indeed the amenity space left around the Sever dwelling, is appropriate to the sort of the urban character then of that part of the village, which to say is mixed. In terms of the comments about residents potentially having to use the parking for the hall, well, as we've discussed, this proposal is looking for both the existing dwelling and the proposed to have their own parking solutions. They both have maximum policy compliant parking. So in that sense, we can't ask the development to deliver any more.
it strikes me that with the comment in the statement that you read out about refuse vehicles, that's likely to be a problem when vehicles are parked on the right as you go up the access there. There's unlikely to be people parked there now because the access is to the off-street parking. So I would have thought that that's covered by that. And I think it's fair to say that although it's described as a 3-bedroom house, it's really 2 bedrooms with an extremely small
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a modest-sized two-story property. It is labelled as 3 bedrooms, and therefore it has delivered the sort of maximum requirements for parking spaces. But it is a modest size. I do concur with the point you're making. By introducing that vehicular access, you're eliminating the opportunities for potentially unsafe off-street parking on the right-hand side as you come up Bryn Heffrog Close.
Councillor Look.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to put forward this application for approval. If we could get a seconder would be brilliant. Thank you.
Can I have Councillor Cook has offered to second it? Can we have the voting function up then, please, Wendy? Okay, that's up. Can everybody vote now, please?
Chair, could I just, for the record, the polls come up with giving me the ability to vote, which I don't have. So just for the record, I'm not voting on the system.
Thank you, Councillor Keir. That's very good of you to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, that's approved. That's 10 for approval.
Just as a matter of interest there, we do actually count up the number of votes, so we are able to check if somebody's snuck one in. Anyway, thank you for that. We now move on to the next item, but we'll wait for Councillor Howells to come in first. Okay, the next item is DM 2025-01047. It's seeking permission for a change of use of a C3 residential bungalow to C4 housing multiple occupation. And Phil, you're going to do that one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so number 9 Park Crescent. Those of us who were on the site visits yesterday on that wet day will have seen that it's a vacant bungalow located on a very large corner plot on the junction with Hereford Road there. It's set back from the road and slightly elevated. There is an existing access driveway and some outbuildings. The driveway's on the left-hand side of the plot as you're looking at the front of it. The garden area is pretty much overgrown, but it does contain some mature trees and shrubs. The property is located within the Abergavenny development boundary. Permission is sought for the change of use of the property, as the Chair has said, from a C3 standard sort of family dwelling to a house in multiple occupation, which is a C4 use. The proposal would involve the demolition of an existing conservatory, which is at the back, a shed and a garage to the side. The windows and doors, where necessary, would be replaced, and the retaining wall and concrete path would be replaced as well. And following renovations, the property would contain a kitchen diner, 2 bathrooms, a living room and 4 bedrooms. There would also be 2 off-road parking spaces, a cycle storage area and a bin store. And one tree that we saw yesterday, adjacent to the existing access drive, would have to be removed. It's a non-native species tree to facilitate the wider entrance and creation of the wider parking space area. A new pedestrian path would then be provided leading to the front door. The proposal includes enhancement of the existing hedges on site, as well as additional planting of trees and species, but there is a condition to cover that. In terms of the principle of development, just looking at the drawings there, that shows the proposed floor plan. So you can see the driveway on the right-hand side of the picture here. So that'll be wider than the current arrangement. The garage is in this sort of area here, which we sheltered under yesterday, parking for bikes, cycles here, and then click on that, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, a living room, 2 bathrooms, and a kitchen at the rear there. The conservatory would be removed. There's also a garden on the side up here above the property, and a slightly smaller but still reasonably spaced grassed area here as well. So there's plenty of scope for amenity space around the building. And those are the existing elevations. So that conservatory bottom left is to come out. And those are the resulting proposed elevations. That's the property there. So you can see that that large tree will have to come out and the retaining wall shifted over. And that's the garage to the left that would be removed to widen the parking area. And that's a view further back, looking towards the junction with Hereford Road. There's a very wide, very wide pavement there where residents locally have parked historically, given the on-street parking situation in the area. Those are the issues. So in terms of the principle of development, this is an existing residential property within the development boundary. The council has no specific policies relating to HMOs, but policy H9, which relates to flat conversion of the LDP, is broadly applicable as a guiding principle. And policy H9 of the LDP states that the conversion of properties into flats within town development boundaries will be permitted, provided that the development meets certain criteria. Those are A, that it won't adversely affect the particular qualities of the street or area where the proposed conversion is located. B, it would not adversely affect the particular qualities of the buildings, particularly where they make a positive contribution to the character of the conservation area. C, provide reasonable levels of amenity and privacy for adjacent properties through careful consideration of the positioning of entrances, fire escapes, and noise transmission issues. And D, ensures that car parking and service requirements are met in a manner which preserves the character and appearance of the area and would not have an adverse impact on highway safety or cause traffic congestion. And in this case, while the building certainly has some merit, it's not of significant value. And indeed, the conversion of the building will actually create some improvements visually to both the building and to the grounds around it. The rear conservatory that is to be removed would not be visible within the streets, and its loss would have no impact. The proposals would improve the street scene and the appearance of the property itself. So the site is not located, within a conservation area. So the proposal therefore accords with the objectives of policy H9 of the LDP. It's considered that the principle of the property being used as an HMO would be acceptable in planning terms. In terms of sustainability, the site is located within an established residential area, and there's a convenience store on the opposite side of the road. Residents of the property could also walk or cycle to all of the facilities in the town centre. The property is considered to be in a sustainable location with ease of access to all amenities, including public transport. The LDP and Planning Policy Wales encourage sustainable development, and the proposal accords with the key objective of Planning Policy Wales by providing residential accommodation in a sustainable location. In respect of net benefit for biodiversity, a nesting box is to be provided on the land to the rear of the property, and in addition to this, new trees will be planted, and there'll be enhancement of existing hedge rows. This is considered to be proportionate to the scale of the proposal and is sufficient to achieve net benefit for biodiversity. However, condition is recommended to secure evidence of net benefit for biodiversity. A GI statement was submitted as part of the application and is considered acceptable. This part of Abergavenny is predominantly residential, although there is a convenience store on the opposite side of the road, as said. The proposal does not involve any extension to the property or any additional windows. It retains a form of residential use and would be small in scale with 4 bedrooms. The proposal would not result in additional overlooking or disturbance to existing property owners, property occupiers. Residential amenity for the occupiers of the neighbouring properties should not be adversely affected. The HMO will be used as a residential property in terms of character, not unlike the surrounding residential properties, and would be managed by the council's housing team to ensure any antisocial behaviour is not tolerated. The proposal accords with the objectives of policy EP1 of the LDP, as it does have regard to the privacy, amenity and health of the occupiers of neighbouring properties. The site is located off Park Crescent, which is a classified highway, is subject to a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. The existing dwelling has an existing vehicular access driveway and garage at the southwestern corner, as we saw, directly onto Park Crescent. The vehicle access is to remain in its current location but would be widened and the garage removed to provide the 2 parking spaces side by side. To meet the current adopted parking standards, the proposal should provide 3 off-street parking spaces similar to a standard 4-bedroom single-family dwelling. Notwithstanding this, Highways acknowledge the site's location within Abergavenny and its proximity to the town centre. It is considered to be in a sustainable location with ease of access to all amenities, including public transport hubs such as the bus and train station. And while only 2 car parking spaces are shown on the drawing, there is actually space within the site to park a 3rd vehicle in front. In addition to the car parking provision, it is acknowledged that there is cycle storage proposed to encourage the use of non-motorised transport. And it's also acknowledged that car ownership tends to be lower for HMO developments compared to self-contained flats or family homes. Considering these factors, the Highway Authority has no basis to object to the application, either on parking or highway safety grounds, and the proposal is considered to accord with the objectives of policy MV1 of the LDP in terms of access and parking. The proposed development site is located in the catchment of a public sewerage system which drains to the Llanfoist wastewater treatment works and ultimately discharges to the River Usk Special Area of Conservation. It's noted that the wastewater treatment works has a phosphorus consent limit and is currently compliant with the permit granted by NRW. It's concluded that flows can be accommodated within the immediate public sewerage system. Welsh Water have requested a condition that no additional surface water is to be discharged to a public sewer as a standard approach. In relation to flooding, part of the site is designated as a Zone 2 area for surface water flooding, not river flooding, identified in the flood maps for planning, and no objection is offered by the council SAB officer. As advice and on a precautionary basis, the SAB officer has recommended that garden levels are reduced on the southeastern side of the dwelling by approximately 20 centimetres and that a constant fall is created towards the south. And this would allow any surface water flows which do occur to pass the dwelling without causing internal flooding. So to conclude, the application relates to an existing property within the development boundary and occupies a sustainable location within easy walking and cycling distance of the centre. The minor alterations to the dwelling will improve both the street scene and the appearance of the property itself and accord with policy TES1 of the LDP. It also accords with the objectives of policy H9, which relates to flat conversions, which is the nearest policy really in terms of the one we can apply for HMOs. Residential amenity and privacy will be maintained in accordance with policy EP1. And the Highway Authority offers no objection and considers that adequate parking is being provided, meeting the objectives of policy MV1. Bike storage will be provided on site. So having regard to the policy context above, the proposal is considered acceptable and planning permission is recommended to be approved, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And we've got nobody registered to speak on on this one. I do note that the Abergavenny Town Council have recommended approval. So we haven't got the local member here, so I'll open it up to the floor. Councillor Buckler.
Thank you, Chair. I think for residents locally, a concern would be the upkeep and the management of the property, sort of surrounding areas, keeping the garden sorted out, and making sure that residents are not, we don't have antisocial problems for neighbours. So I think they hopefully would be reassured by what you have stated, Philip, in your statement about the application, that it will be very closely monitored and will be carefully considered as residents move in, if we agree to okay this application. I think that would be a serious consideration for residents locally. So hopefully you've allayed some concerns.
Okay, thank you for that. And yes, as you've acknowledged, it's going to be managed by the housing team in MCC, so that should all be taken care of. Phil, did you want to contribute on that?
No, other than to reiterate your words, Chair. It's within the gift of the council to control and manage that in a responsible way, and I'm sure residents will come forward if they have got concerns, as you know, as we can when we're driving around in that area. If we note that there's a need to improve the management of the curtilage of the property to ensure that it doesn't harm the character of the area, then we can certainly speak to our colleagues in housing, and I'm sure they will respond in a positive fashion. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sure that's the case. Councillor Bryn.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I'm really pleased to see this proposal come before us today, as small HMOs play a vital role in addressing housing shortages by providing affordable local accommodation, and this site is in the perfect location for such a development. The loss of any mature tree, even a non-native one, is sad to see and will have a negative effect on the street scene. So I'm really pleased to see the proposal to plant replacement trees in the front garden, as well as the planting of an additional hedgerow. And I'm also delighted to see the proposal to install secure bike parking, as the dwelling is a very short cycle ride to town and to the train station. My only concern really is the prospect of possibly 8 people sharing 2 bathrooms with no separate toilet, and that does concern me a little. Can you confirm that this proposal is for 4 occupants only? It's more to do with the fact that there's not a separate toilet, just that if 2 people are in the shower...
No, I did check with Ian Bakewell, housing manager, and the property is to cater for single people, so because they are double rooms, if you like, they shouldn't double bed in the rooms, and they're slightly larger bedrooms, excuse me. Occasionally, and he did stress it may be occasionally, where there is some sort of severe housing need, they may accommodate a couple in one of the rooms for a short period, but it won't be. The primary role will be to cater for single people living in the 4 bedrooms, which will obviously create less pressure then on the bathrooms. But it gives them a degree of flexibility on the occasional time that they may need to put a couple in there for a short period, just because of the severe housing need they might be under. But they would then be accommodated in more suitable accommodation elsewhere that is more suitable for a couple to live in. I agree that this is primarily for single people. It should be for single people.
Yeah. Thanks. I just think we could have benefited from a separate toilet, just because that's...
Well, there are two loos.
2 bathrooms, though.
2 bathrooms.
If 2 people in the shower, you can't go to the toilet. Having living with a family of 4, I know that often is the case, that 2 people are in the shower at the same time. And that just concerned me a little, that was all. But thank you.
Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. We visited yes, I was present on the visit there yesterday, soggy visit yesterday. It's an interesting building because it presents as a small cottage, sort of bungalow to the street, and is in fact then much bigger going back from there. Much has been talked about, much has been made of the improvement that this would make to the street scene. But when we visited, I think I was told that windows would be replaced. The rendering to the building is in very shabby state, and if we really wanted to improve the street scene, I'd want to see the exterior of the building improved as well as the windows. And I'm wondering if you could comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I presume that the whole property will be repainted, as it were, waterproofed. I think, yeah, they'll need to make sure that the roof is weatherproof as well. You know, there's no leaks, and they're taking down the conservatory at the back, presumably because it did look as if some of the wood there was rotting. So that's obviously going to the whole property will be refurbished, in a sense that, you know, it'll be enveloped, if you can call it. If you remember the enveloping schemes we used to have years ago, the outside will be renovated. So they'll only replace the windows, as Enda said, because we could see there were some actually more modern UPVC windows there. They'll only replace, I think, the older Crittall windows where those aren't needed. They'll obviously retain the more modern elements that don't need replacing. But yeah, the whole thing will be enveloped to improve it.
Councillor Hells.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. So with regards to parking, there are 2 available and a possible third, you said. So is there data to back up that the multi-occupancy have general low ownership of cars? Is there data to back that up? And what is that figure, if there is?
I haven't got that data available to me, but historically I've known from experience that HMOs do have lower standards of parking because sometimes they cater for people who might be homeless, so obviously they may not have access to a car. But there is data out there, but I can't provide that here, Councillor Howells, I'm afraid. But historically, there is empirical evidence to show that HMOs do have lower parking requirements.
Great. And just a second query. I noted there was 2 comments from neighbours as well. And I see from the report they were addressed, but just for the sake of whoever's watching today, I mean, can you just confirm what your replies are to the potential for overcrowding, lack of fire safety, antisocial behaviour, poor sanitation, negative impact on the street, and inadequate parking?
Well, those are all outlined in the report.
Yeah,
so I won't really go into much detail there. In terms of fire safety, the house would need to be registered as an HMO, so it'll have to meet fire regulations. The property will be managed by a housing team, so they'll ensure that the 4 bedrooms aren't overcrowded. So there'll be day-to-day management of the property. So and there's no reason why it should cause any antisocial behaviour if it's managed responsibly by our housing options team. It's also detached, so it has that advantage compared to, say, a terraced property in a terraced row of street where potentially sound transmission might be more of a problem. This has got the advantage of actually being divorced slightly from the neighbours, you know, in terms of physical separation. Parking, we've been through that in my presentation, and highways are satisfied, given the sustainable location, that 2 spaces is reasonable for this scale of development. You can get a third in front of one of those 2 spaces, and as we saw yesterday, there's a huge hard standing area where residents park. So there is scope, should it need it, and I doubt that it would, that more than 2 spaces could be provided on site or very close by.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you.
Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Chair. I think you're being optimistic on proper management, Phil, because they can only be there a certain number of hours of the day. And my experience of HMOs in my ward is that they take up a considerable amount of police time. Have the Gwent Police had any views on this one? That's my only concern, is how it can be managed 24 hours a day rather than just during the daytime.
Well, we're looking at this as a form of housing, Councillor Eason, rather than it being a sort of, a property that necessarily will cause problems. That very much depends on the management, and that's up to our housing options team to provide responsible management. And I'm sure if there were any problems, that they would be contacted by local residents, and they will be liaising with local residents before it opens. There's not a lot more I can say. In terms of planning, we have to be careful where we stray really in times in sort of this, because it is a form of residential use which is appropriate in this sort of area. So as we know with any form of whether they be self-contained flats in larger Victorian houses, for instance, it's very much how those are managed rather than it be implicitly a problem. So I'd be quite cautious in sort of saying this is going to be a problem. We wouldn't necessarily consult the police on an application like this, because it's not something which is they're not a statutory consultee, and it's not something that is a standard approach. I don't know. Yeah,
I appreciate we need to find places for people to live. I understand that, and I won't be voting against this one. But I do have concerns that when HMOs are put in place, they do bring with them problems, which create other problems. And yes, they've got to be managed. How it's managed on a day-by-day basis, they're not quite sure. But we need to find homes for people. That's my main concern. Thank you.
It would have been perhaps in hindsight we could have got housing to come along and provide any sort of comments on how they manage these sort of properties. But, unfortunately, that wasn't, we haven't arranged that.
Councillor Cook.
Yeah, can I propose we move for approval, please, Chair?
As it happens, Councillor Cook, I've got nobody else on my list that have put their hands up, so yes.
I'll second it.
Maureen, did you say you...
I'll second it, yes.
All right, okay, thank you very much. In that case, then, Wendy, can we have the voting function up, please? All right, can we all vote now then, please?
Okay, so that is approved. That's 12 for approval.
Thank you very much. And that comes to the end of our agenda for today. Can I remind everybody about a very important date on Friday of next week? And with that, I shall close the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
We run through the ones where the decision on them. These are just, I won't believe